Welcome to Reinventing You. I'm your host, Danielle Silverman. I believe that in today's world of ever-constant evolution, the only career change that matters is when what you do matches who you are and what you believe. This show is where you'll learn how embracing change and reinventing yourself will help you navigate any disruptions and lead a life of happiness and fulfillment, especially in this ever-changing world. Your purpose and your meaning will drive your personal transformation. As I like to say, it's your vision, your life. Be passionate about it. Reinventing You starts now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Reinventing You, a podcast where we talk about all things career-related. My name is Danielle Silverman, and my mission is to have people find work that matches who they are so that they can live a happier and more fulfilled life that will bring meaning and peace to themselves and to the world. Today, I'd like to continue our discussion about how the economic and social trends of today can impact your career. And specifically, we're going to try to provide some insight into what organizations, human resources departments, and job seekers can do in the face of complex and constant change. And to help me with this, my guest today is Robert Roy, who's president of the Maritime Employers Association. Robert has more than 20 years' experience in the human capital industry, including extensive experience at corporate and field levels, as well as consulting and operating human resources transformational programs. He's led the full employee cycle, and he's well-versed in both process reengineering and human resources. In addition, Robert has worked with large, medium, and small businesses. And as such, he has a tremendous understanding of the challenges that an organization can face, and he knows how to transform these into positive actions. In addition, his international experience brings us a global perspective about the complexity, the challenges, and the potential that organizations and human resources departments face. And I would be remiss if I didn't add that I had the immense pleasure of working with Robert when I was at LHH Knightsbridge, where my job was helping people who were in career transition. It was a pleasure to work with you, Robert. Your insight, your warmth, and humor were always an inspiration. Robert, welcome to Reinventing You, and thank you for accepting my invitation.
Thank you, Danielle. Good morning.
Good morning. So, Robert, we talked a little bit about how the economic climate today is very different than it was when we were working together. Based on your extensive experience, how have you seen industries shift in response to these economic trends, particularly in the face of the recent pandemic and the push for digital transformation?
In fact, I really appreciate that question because pre-2020 or pre-March 13th, 2020,
to be precise, yes.
To be precise, I would have said that, the world was really going on economically. Everybody was trying to manage within the 2% average rate increase. And it was kind of a steady, but globally, I would say it was effective managing the global economy in every country that you were looking at. So the interest rate or inflation were quite stable and nothing was really shaking. I was somewhat fortunate to be in a new industry, but the maritime world at the start of COVID. And everybody was really anxious. And when you looked at the world globally, everyone was focusing on stabilizing the threat, the pandemia, and less focus on the initial stage of the economy, which everybody was looking at as a reduction of close to 20 to 30% of GDPs. And it was surprisingly enough, it took probably 3 to 4 months to see that it was not going down. It was still stable. And within 6 months, it started picking up because, people were consuming. People were still consuming. And there were a lot of initiatives that were put worldwide in various countries to help people get through the potential risk of cash flow personal cash flow. In fact, and Canada is a very good example with the PCU, the amount that they gave each and everyone to help them go through the lack of work. And when we saw a real pickup overall, the economy went really, really well, to the point that it became a challenge because some industries, I would say, and I will not talk generally speaking, but most of the import-export industries did really, really well because things were moving. Things were moving, people were buying, people were consuming. It was just crazy. And there are crossroads at this point in time where, Danielle, we've experienced where there was not enough jobs for the people that were looking for jobs, whereas there were, I mean, when I started working, there were like 200 people for one job. Nowadays, there are like 26 jobs for each individuals that are available in the marketplace. So globally speaking, lack of resources, consumption that kept going, people went from just in time to just in case. So the companies started ordering like crazy. They built warehouses to stock material where they were receiving them on time. They couldn't predict anything anymore. So there was a bit of a crisis. There was a bit of a panic, all in all. But for some industries, it went really, really better than others. And we can think of the restaurants and some of the services goods that were highly impacted, but still people are creative. And through crisis, creativity takes along, and therefore we saw a lot of innovations and things that popped up naturally from the way they were thinking. So it was a very funny and tough period, but funny period to look at the overall human being.
Yeah, I think you're right. There was a reaction to the panic. I love the expression from just in time to just in case, because yes, people started stocking up from fear probably of what was going on. And certain industries were impacted, especially the service industries were tremendously impacted. The restaurant business for sure, all the hospitality, and the airlines too, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, any travel was also highly impacted. So how do you explain the fact, well, I mean, it's given that, people are panicking and doing the just in case, now that it's a little bit more calm, if you will, from the pandemic point of view, we're seeing the exact opposite, but we're also seeing, as you said, there are 26 jobs available for every person who's looking for a job. And yet unemployment still remains, well, not that high, but, still considerably higher than it was. How do you explain that shift?
Danielle, I would probably challenge the fact that we say it's still high. I would say it's low. It's low. Okay. Honestly, we've seen the 10% mark, at least in Canada, and we've seen it worldwide. It came down to the 3.5, 4. Now it's up to 5, and I don't think there's anything to be panicking again, because the global economy, when you look at what's happening right now, and people are predicting a recession, which we don't believe will happen. I mean, personally, I don't believe recession will happen. It's just a readjustment of the cycle that will happen, and the banks, the central banks, are doing the right thing. I mean, like it or not, they're adjusting the rates to make sure that we don't go on a crazy upscale, and therefore this is helping. When you look at some areas, there has been some layoffs, but people don't see in their current jobs, and they're moving career-wise from one job to another, which we haven't seen before. I mean, you would see someone in telecommunications staying in telecom for the remaining of their life, whereas now the people are moving and taking more risk and opportunities to be exploring stuff. When you look at the younger generation, they've been trained and they've been taught at school that change is good.
Yes,
Whereas in my generation, it was like you have to hold to that job forever until you retire and die, right?
that's right. Yes, we both went to the same school.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, it's a shift in the mindset of the workers that I mean, I like honestly because the more experience you get and the more exposure you get to the various possibilities that exist out there, the more competencies and the more knowledge you're building towards your nice and perfect X job that you're going to have fun with.
Absolutely. And we used to say that, if you jumped from job to job every 2 years, it was a black spot on your resume. And today, it's the exact contrary. It just means that you have that much more varied experience. People
Yeah,
question
well,
when you're somewhere for 10 years. Well, how come you stayed in the same place for 10 years?
exactly,
Absolutely.
exactly, and those are the questions. Even when we run interviews right now, and we look at
Yeah,
the overall profile of individuals, we're cautious, but at the same time, we're aware that people are coming in for a cycle. They're not coming in for their entire career life cycle, which makes a difference when you're managing businesses, and this applies to everyone. So.
So how do the companies adapt to this mentality, to this different mindset that is out there now?
You have to set yourself some realistic goals. I mean, when you look at the 33, 33, 33, and you put your employees in categories, there will always be 33% of your workforce that will be dedicated, and they will want to stay in the job for as long as they can till retirement. There's a 33% that come in, and they come in for, I would say, a period of time where they will either learn the job that they're in, and they will explore other venues that they could learn within the whole cycle of your organization. And then you have the in and out, the one that comes in for a short period of time. If they don't get what they want, and if they don't really see opportunities or growth opportunities, or they're more concerned about the rates that they're going to get than the values of the organization, then those are the one that come in and leaves very rapidly. And I've seen all kind of stories over time. So you need, as a leader, you need to be very realistic and plan for it with your HR department, that in the end you have a well-balanced workforce planning cycle that has visibility over what can be your risk, and take opportunities, because that 33% that stays forever may need to move. I mean, we've learned, you and I, that when people are holding on to a job, it's not necessarily the best thing for the company itself. The good news now is, in the old days, you would do a layoff or offer a transition for someone, and it would be perceived as a negative thing to do. Nowadays, because there are a lot of openings, people are reacting more openly and positively about
Interesting.
those changes. As long as you do a good job, right? Transition is key. I mean, if you do it in a not non-humanistic way, then you're not helping people. But you know me, Danielle. So I work with people, I help people, but I have a mission and goal that I have to deliver at the same time, and I'll make sure that at the end of the day we have the best talent for the strategies that we've put forward, making sure that we do deliver on our commitment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a balance, as you say. In addition, though, to having that balance for, and it's very interesting. I've never heard a leader talk about it in that way. So it's quite heartening to see that there is a plan in place, that there is a strategy that you can follow, that will also follow the trends that are going on out there.
You know, Danielle, the one thing you need to be careful about is that in this global economy, with all the challenges we're seeing, right, things are popping left and right. Stuff that you didn't think about in 2019 that are happening not even 4 years later, that you have to be mindful. I mean, I'm reading all kind of stuff. I'm very curious, like any other C-suite leaders. And every time I get caught by, oh, they're doing this differently. They're doing this naturally now, which we didn't believe would be an option in 2019, is now a trend or is now a way forward. Just think about teleworking, right? A lot of leaders in 2019 were totally against teleworking, and it became the best thing after sliced bread, March 13, 2020. It wasn't even an option. And if you wanted to survive, you had to reinvent yourself and make sure that this economy you would be sustaining and offering services while keeping your lights on, right? It was a matter of staying alive. So
yeah, and now employees are saying they actually like that, either remote or hybrid version, which I imagine would be affecting other kinds of industries. I'm thinking of real estate in the downtown areas, for example, where a lot of office space is empty. I imagine that's quite a challenge. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was to say, but even though when you think of the Chamber of Commerce, and I would say in the States and in Canada, they are exploring right now the downtown areas to be more hybrid than they used to be. I mean, they were office towers where now they're going to start building condominiums as part of the office towers. This is reinventing the game, and so COVID has been a game changer, and human being being human being, we adapted to something, and
yes.
Yeah.
So, are there any other ways that the companies themselves are adapting to this? Because it's ever changing and it's never going to stop changing. It's going to continue changing at an even faster pace.
Long story short, I mean, this will not be a declaration that will be changing the life of everyone, but please focus on change management. This has been the basic stuff that I've been promoting over the changes that I've had, regardless of COVID or the pandemic. Because honestly, I would say since the early stage of the 2020, not 2020, the 2000 mark, when we shifted from 1999 to January 1st, 2000, right? The end of the world was to happen.
That's right. Huge panic.
Yeah, there was a big panic. And what happened? Nothing, right? And then we learned from that moment that there was a lot of change management to be done at every level. And therefore, this is what I've been teaching and getting external consultants to come in and help the teams that I've worked with in the last 25 years. Because honestly, the architecture can be redesigned. You can think of any structure. At the end of the day, if you can't adapt to change, might as well stay home, because this is the knowledge base, the competency number one you need to have in this 21st century. And honestly, with all the game changers that are emerging, I took a certificate with MIT in 2019 on strategic planning and artificial intelligence. And that was an eye opener to me, because at the end of the day, artificial intelligence is, emerging, and it's there, and it's creating a lot of changes. But all those changes needs what? A good change management strategy, because people are building stories, they're making up stuff about the impact of AI, not really understanding that after AI, something else will be coming.
Absolutely.
Right.
And the issue I have with change management, though, is that it's often introduced without any explanation, without proper communication, and therefore is not necessarily successful in the way we would like it to be. What has your experience been with that?
Danielle, it's all about the case for change, right? So at the end of the day, to your point, if you don't explain well what you're going to do, what will happen, then people resist day one. So if there is no purpose to this change in their day-to-day job, and they don't get it, you can push it to their throat. It will never happen. So human being being human being, that's the essence of it. You have to it needs a lot of humility, and you have to be able to put yourself in the other's shoes, right? And I'll go back to the relationship that I've had with union leaders in the maritime world. I mean, they're known to be tough and not easy to deal with. Honestly, I've never had an issue with them because every time I come up with a change, I meet them one-on-one and I take the time to explain and have a very good discussion. Right? In the end, they may like it or not, but at least we've talked about it. And I'm planting a seed. And I have to be able to read the other and be able to adapt and make sure that I'm not getting in their sandbox, changing their whole life without any purpose. So what's the purpose of this change? What's in it for me? The W5, why, what, where, when, whom. I mean, those basics, just go back to the basics. And until you have an answer, don't start. If you don't have a clear answer and both parties are not engaged in the change, there will be resistance along the way, and this will not be successful. So every changes that I've had, I mean, honestly, the first one I did wasn't a success at all, and it was not fun to be living in. But I learned very rapidly, and I brought everybody around the table. And I made it their case for change, and I made it for them to adopt and adapt. And at the end of the day, when I saw that they really understood where we were going, and they were taking on ownership of the design of the destination we were to be at, then I knew, I mean, things were done. And this is what I've been applying since then. So I think in this global economy, a lot of people learn through the pandemic. I mean, although we were pushing rules and guidelines about you have to go to bed at 9 and restrictions, no, but I mean, we lived it in Quebec, right? People are adjusting. And if there's no case for change, you're seeing naturally resistance. If it's not well explained, people are resisting. In your day-to-day life and in your business world, the same will happen.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So globally, what would you say that most leaders are saying today? Or if you do you sense what the pulse is among leaders globally in terms of change management?
Well, what I'm seeing as a change amongst the global leaders that I've talked with is we still have a job to do. So we still have to make sure that we're generating the revenue we say we will be generating. But it's done in a different way, and it's less drastic than it used to be in the 1980s, 1990s years, where it was black or white, right? So we're not meeting the EBIT, therefore we're going to cut numbers of headcounts, and there was no rational under it. Mm-hmm. Because there were no challenges about manpower, right? So you lay off 1,000 people 1 month, and 6 months later you could hire 1,500, and you would be good. COVID brought something to in light. I mean, human beings are not only human assets. I mean, they are human, and they have choices now that they can make their own choice. So what I'm seeing from the leaders, globally speaking, is that they're more aware, and they are taking more time on this sensitive matter, that is keeping your people happy and aligned with your vision and your values more and more.
That's fantastic, actually. And I think it's increasingly more important. Having said that, we still see that there's low engagement. I know that Gallup has recently said that the engagement numbers have gone up a bit, but there's still, what was the number, 59%, I think, the global workforce that's quiet quitting. And now they're even keeping track of people who are loud quitting, who are actually leaving, and that's about 18%. So I think low engagement is still there. And what does that cost the economy? Close to $9 trillion. How do we reconcile the two? Or is it just a question of time where leaders will start to have an impact on not the process, but the vision and the engagement of employees and their understanding of what's going on?
That's a very good question, Danielle. I think the time will do its job. because in those challenging time about engaging your employees in your mission, and I think leaders, honestly, and that's the way I feel personally, we're seeking for what's the next thing that will really engage those people to be picking up on your offer, right? What's your offering? So I'm currently revisiting the whole mission of the maritime industry that we're in, because it was very, very process centric. It didn't mean anything for someone to come in. It was like, our mission is to do training, labor relation, and dispatch. Okay, whereas our coming mission will be more aligned to employees' values and promote, in fact, what's in it for me and how will I be contributing to this evolving world of the maritime world, right? How do I recognize myself as an individual contributing to the change that the maritime world is currently going through? And when you think of ESG, this is clear that globally speaking, people are taking care of environmental, social, and governance more and more. So I'm completing a certificate on ESG right now, and I would say that 80% of the topics are driven towards the employees themselves. Do they recognize that you're doing a good job on the environmental front? What's your impact in the society? And what's your governance process? How will you walk the talk? What you say, you do, right? So we're reshaping our vision around exactly what I just said to make sure that when we hire someone, they recognize themselves at the entry and they can come in. And again, for a lapse of time, could be 3, 5 years, 10 years, but at least they know that it's not only generating revenue and focus on the bottom line. There's more to
it. So what is the role of HR in helping you put together programs or things that help the employees recognize what value they can bring to the organization and values that will work for them, that will help them feel fulfilled?
The last HR director that I hired, which was 2 years ago, the main focus was not on processes themselves. I was really looking for someone that could help me on the organizational design based on what I'm driving as value and what we need to drive as an organization in service of our industry. So that's a change, because typically you would be designing your org structure based on how can we leverage better revenue, how can we be linear, and therefore at the end of the day, less cost but more revenue again. And I told the person that came in, I said, we're generating good revenue, we're doing our job. So we need to make sure that our shareholders, the members of the association, are happy. But more and over, we really need to have an org design that will be supportive of our mission, because we are in service of the industry. We have to make sure that at the end of the day, every day when I wake up, I go to work, but work is not the only mean in my life. Work is supporting me to have a good life, a healthy work-life balance, right? So when I step out of the work, I still have a good engagement towards my company, but I know this company helps me have a good time with my family, my friends, in the society that I'm working in.
So that's very interesting. It's actually the first time that I hear that an organization is not just stating what its mission is, but is actually actively working on making its mission real, not just for the shareholders, but also for the employees. Fantastic, especially when you talk about employee well-being, because I think that's what is going to ultimately stop the quiet quitting. And
This is not. I mean, this is a. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon.
yes.
I started this 2 years ago. I believe that we're going to see the ramification or the impact of those changes in 3 to 5 years. People are starting to see it. So when we do employee engagement survey, we're still in a 55, 60-ish, which is, I mean, the trend right now. And I'm not looking at a score. I'm really looking at when will this change happen, that when people come in, they say, I'm referred by Danielle Silverman, and she knows you're a good organization because of this, that, and that, and that, right? So they will tell me exactly the story that I'm working on right now and implementing as this is the work environment that we're going to have fun with.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hope a lot of people are listening to this and agree with you. I certainly think it's a tremendous thing that you're doing. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the impact that all of this has on employees. So welcome back, Robert. Thank you so much for all of this amazing information. We started touching a little bit on employee well-being. You mentioned the term employee well-being, and I think that's a really big deal today. People are talking about, after having gone through the pandemic, having experienced working from home, their personal and professional lives have somehow become kind of blurred. So how should companies approach employee well-being to ensure that there is a healthy and at the same time productive workforce?
Yeah, Danielle, like in our world, we have, and I'll say the corporate people and then the blue collar that are doing the day-to-day job, right? And something we learned, and I'll speak for the blue collar specifically as a starting point, is we have collective agreement in place that are not helping work-life balance. And I'll give you one simple example where in the collective agreement and you work as a longshore worker and you're done with your 8-hour shift, we can mandate you to stay for an additional 4 hours.
Wow.
Okay, because the vessel is there for a period of time. We need to empty, fill, and send it back to sea. When you think of the actual world and you think of the work life of the family now, you have more single mom and single dad that have the guard of their kids that needs to leave after an 8-hour shift to go and pick the kids at the kindergarten. So it's something we need to adjust for and make sure that we understand. We can't anymore be at employees forcing them to stay an additional 4 hours. In all due respect of the family and the need that they have a well-balanced life, right?
Yeah. Well, it sounds to me a little bit like the airlines and the airline pilots and onboard personnel who can only work a certain or fly a certain number of hours, but that's for safety reasons. And I would imagine it would be much the same thing, for the unions in the maritime world, where there's heavy equipment involved and that sort of thing.
But in our case, it's more about the time of arrival and time of departure of those vessels. Yeah. And Montreal is one of the only ports in North America that is a destination port. So we empty the whole vessel and then we fill it up completely and then send it back to sea. And we need to keep the at dock window as short as possible. So therefore, we created rules over the years that are not helping work-life balance. Yeah. So this is something that we will need to revisit shortly. But for the corporate employees, the fact that the tools came up very, very rapidly, and we had no other option to engage into teleworking. Mm-hmm. I introduced very rapidly a policy for providing an hybrid environment where it provides the employees the ability to be at work 2 days a week on-prem, right? But Wednesday is a mandatory day, and the second day is up to you.
Yeah, I've seen that before. Yes.
Yeah. And this is helping in the building, or at least finding a way of building a culture of and a sentiment of ownership somewhere. Because again, when you telework and you're on your own 5 days a week, 40 hours a week, 35 hours a week, then you lose sense of the and sentiment of ownership and the belonging to an organization. It could be anybody, right? You're sitting in front of a screen with a keyboard. It could be any company. So the relationship is really key. And this is where I see on the Wednesday, and I told all my leaders, I said, it may not be perceived as a productivity day on Wednesday because everybody talked to one another, right? How's your kids? How's your dog? Where's your next vacation? But this is key. This is critical. This is where you build something where people, this is where the glue, make sure that the glue gets the people to be connected to one another, because we need that human touch. We need that feeling touch. I mean, I'm buying cookies, we're buying lunch, and people laugh because they say we come in Wednesday because we get feed. But there's something underneath, because we want to create the proximity of, okay, I'm happy, Danielle. I'm not only seeing you in a 12-inch screen, but I'm sitting beside you, and I'm benefiting of your good laugh and your body language, and you're benefiting of my body language. We go back home at night, and we have something to tell our family, spouse, and our surrounding. Otherwise, I've been sitting in front of a screen for 8 hours, and that's all I did, right?
I'm hearing that from everywhere. People are craving the human connection. They really are. I mean, except for some rare extreme introverts who are very happy just to sit at home. Most everybody I speak with, I'd say 98%, crave that human connection. Absolutely.
And I think even introverts are just shy of saying it, but they probably like it.
I agree. I agree. So having said that, we know that employees are not going to be productive 8 hours out of the 8 hours a day. I don't think they were even sitting in an office. I think it was probably 5 productive hours out of 8 is probably a good number. So how do we translate that? How do we communicate that to people? And how do we help them stay productive? What is it that will help them help the organization continue to remain competitive?
So that was a big concern of the board when the pandemic started, right? How are we going to be making sure that they're productive? And we noticed that productivity in the early stage went up 30%. Okay, and because people were focusing, they were not disturbed until they started creating some virtual coffee break, and then we saw some shifts. So what I made as a decision, and we have quarterly caucus where we bring everybody together and we talk about the business generally speaking. And I remember this one caucus where I said, okay, guys, we pay for results. We don't pay for hours. So everybody knows what their jobs is, right? So through performance management, the first objective will be do your job. So whatever your job is, your job needs to be done. And then I don't want you to have 10, 20 objectives. I want you to have 2 or 3. And the 2 others will be stretching objectives that will take you out of your comfort zone, allow you to grow in skills, grow in contribution, grow in whatever, okay? But at the end of the day or at the end of the week, you would be in the office or away from the office. Those 3 objectives would make you feel that I've contributed this week. So if you feel through the day, you need to go out and walk the dog or pull out the trolley, walk the baby, do some shopping over the day. I don't care. I really don't care. I pay for results, not for the time that you spend in front of a screen. And it was tough. It was a tough sell to the management, not the employees. Managers were like, "Oh, you can't say this, and we need to add mechanism of." And it was like, guys, if there is someone that is not willing to play those rules, they're not just sitting in the right place. So let's have an open and honest discussion with them, and help them do something else. All the others will feel that, hey, we're trusting them, right? Trust your people. They wake up in the morning with the right behaviors. They want to do a job. They want to do a good job. So trust them. They're going to be delivering. And guess what? It happened naturally, right? So the one that were not fitting in the box, didn't like it, or cheated. I mean, they stood up and they showed up naturally to the management, and we had to make decisions. And all the others, it went really, really well. So trust your people.
So the odd person who doesn't fit in that, you're going to find out about it pretty quick. It's interesting. Back in, I hate to say this because it ages me, 1989, I wrote my MBA thesis on the effect of supervision on employee productivity. And we didn't have the research that we have today. We had maybe one, the research of the, I don't know if you remember the case, I think it was 1940s, 46 or something like that, the pajama factory. I don't know if you've heard of this case.
No.
Well, it basically, it was about change management as well, about telling employees on a distribution line, you're going to fold the shirt this way. You have no choice. This is how you're going to fold it. And, most people either, didn't do it or they quit. And then the second case, they told people, you're going to fold it this way, but, you're going to do it. There's an extra step that you're going to do. Okay. And they were a little bit better with that. In the third case, they asked people what they thought of this change and why they were doing it. And nobody quit. So what you're doing is the same thing. You're trusting that your people know what it is that they do, and you're asking for results, not for hours. So yeah, thank you. When my hair curls when I hear of people putting in productivity measures on employees' computers, I just
Probably, Danielle. I mean, Microsoft with the Office 365 came up with all kind of tools. Yeah. Managers can use to track and monitor if your mouse is moving. Guess what? The first thing man did is they created a software to emulate a mouse movement. Right?
Yes.
So let's not be done here and recognize that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you also talked about previously about people who some people stay for longer, some people will stay for shorter periods of time. What would you say to these job seekers, because there are a lot of them out there, even if there are 26 jobs for every person looking for a job? How do they manage these transitions in these economic times? Are there any specific strategies that you would recommend? I know you worked for a while in helping people who were in career transition or leading a team of people who worked in career transition. So,
Danielle, I would say as at the early stage of this interview, you said, people were looking at your resume, and if you had less than 10 years, they would be concerned of hiring you because you would be moving really or too often, right? 10 years. For the job seekers and the one that are moving they're looking for conditions, right? They're not looking for values they're looking for money, and that's all they care about, or they're looking for growing and improving their resume, and that's all. Mm-hmm. At some point in time, this will catch you up. The same as you spent less than 10 years, you were identified as a potential threat for the organization. Let me tell you, when I get resumes and I see that if people have been moving, because we have enough span of time now to see that people are moving, they're job seekers, then I have a very straight talk with these individuals. Like, okay, am I going to be one line in your resume? Mm-hmm. Or you really want to do something with us that will make a difference in the industry? And it's for you to make that call. It's for you to make the decision. But at the end of the day, I want people to be joining in, not because of their personal growth, because I know this will happen within our group. We need you to help us push this group and bring it somewhere else, because we're introducing so many changes technology-wise. I was the first to introduce AI in the world of the maritime industries. And we're going live this summer with something that will change, a key game changer. Who says game changer says also change in role and responsibilities, change in scope of work, change. So come and learn with us how you can change yourself in this evolving and changing industry. And therefore, if you stay long enough, you will be able to tell a story, not only one storyline, but to tell a story, right? And this is key, I believe.
Are you finding that people are reacting positively to this attitude? Because you're not doing all the interviews yourself, obviously. So, you have managers, whether it's HR, whether it's the hiring manager, who are doing these interviews. How are people reacting to that sort of thing?
So Danielle, I've made great changes in the organization in the last 24 months. And I have made personally every interviews of the leaders that are working very close to me, of course. And this is key because it starts at the top, right? If you believe in what you say, then you're going to do what you say.
Yes.
So all my leaders now and their leaders are interviewing with the same mindset. Are you coming in for a storyline, or you're coming in for the whole story?
Totally. There's an Italian expression that says the fish smells from the head. So yeah, totally agree with you. Wow. Okay. Who wouldn't want to go and work for an organization like that? Do you think, though, that there are specific skills or essential skills that people should focus on in order for them to remain competitive in today's job market?
See, I would say, honestly, I'll go back to change, of course, because this is key. Find yourself a purpose in life. Find yourself something that you really, really want to do. I read a book recently, Great Purpose, and it's all about, and I highly recommend for anyone to be reading this book because it's changed my view of how big organizations have been before pandemia and through pandemia, changing their purpose, their mission. And so if you know, honestly, what you really want to contribute and do in life as a fundamental, then naturally doors will open and you will be joining people that have the same mission in life, and you will be making a difference. At the end of the day, it's all about how do you feel. And then, yeah, I've never been, and it took me 40 years to find this X. I'm not only sitting on my X, I'm holding to this X because I love it. I love what I do, right? Every morning I'm like, oh, I get to do this again. Thank you.
Robert, it's music to my ears because that's what I do. Is I help people find their purpose in life. The one thing I'm hearing from people across the board is that they want to change because right where they are, they no longer find meaning, and they don't know what their purpose is. So first of all, I'm thrilled to hear that you're standing on your X. That's fantastic. And I feel as if, I don't know what else to ask you, because that's really I wanted to ask you as a last question, what advice you would give people, and you've just given it.
Well, I would say as a last point, so I may sound very, very optimistic, all right? I mean, there are days where it's not easy, but I'm converting those not easy days into opportunities. And that's the thing that I do. I do not lead only, I coach my team, and I'm with them on a regular basis. And I spend time on the field, right? I take a pickup truck and I get on the dock and I get close to the longshore workers. What are they living? What are they facing? What are they challenged by? And every time I see opportunities, I convert those opportunities into action. And then there's something that emerges within you, and it creates your purpose in life. Honestly, that's all I would say. Make sure that you know why you wake up in the morning.
Yes, but it's also a lesson to you're privileged because you're the leader of the organization. But regardless of your role in the organization, what you're suggesting should be, if you're a team leader, for example, you should be going out in the field and finding out what's going on among your team members, right? So it doesn't matter what role you hold in the organization. Excellent advice. So some people are without a job, or they're so miserable in the job that they have that they really want to get out of there as fast as possible. So there's some urgency that they have in finding a new role. But at the same time, they also want to make sure, as you said, that it's the right fit for them, that it is something that speaks to what is meaningful for them, that they have a purpose in going into work every day. How would you tell them to balance that urgency against, finding that right fit?
Although I love, not only like, I love technology. I mean, please get out of your comfort zone. Go and see people that look happy about their job, and learn about why are they happy, what do they like about their job. Go and seek, talk, build your network. I mean, Danielle, I've been in this position a few times, as you know, seeking jobs. And the last thing I did, I mean, was sitting in my office reading through job boards, what was available in the marketplace. Because 90% of the real good jobs are not on the marketplace. They're,
Correct.
they're word to mouth. People that know good people so get out there. Get out there, market yourself. Make sure that you are the product. Be proud of who you are. Get out there, talk to people, express what you would love. And at some point in time, no doubt that crossroads will happen. And moreover, nowadays, market is good. Hiring market is really, really good. So there's no reason to stay in a box that you don't like. I mean, be there, be out there, talk to people, move. Action is the word. No, not reaction, action.
Action. Okay. What would you say that this is a way of future-proofing your career, or is there something else that you would add?
No, it's aligned with the future proofing, no doubt.
Okay, so networking, action, keep reading, keep aware of what's going on around you, keep talking to people. How would you wrap it up? What words of wisdom would you give people out there?
And take some time for yourself, right? Well balanced people step out. So when you get in a group and you're well balanced, right? You feel good inside, it will show outside. You will be mentally well equipped to have a good discussion and learn. Don't be afraid of learning new stuff, because that new stuff will take you somewhere you did not expect.
So mentally, also physically and emotionally, and psychologically, and spiritually as well, fit to be able to do the work. And strangely enough, it's what people find the most difficult to do. Self-care is an issue. Is there something that organizations can do to help that? Just I'll leave you on that note, because I think it's something that people care about and they just don't know how. Or is this something that comes from outside?
But Danielle, I've done a lot of things in terms of programs. We're giving money to buy equipment. We do a lot of things internally to support, but it starts with you. It starts with you. So I could roll down the red carpet and invite you to, but it starts with you. Make that first step for yourself. Don't do it for anyone else. If you're not ready to do it for yourself, unfortunately, this will show naturally that you're not helping yourself. Do it for you. Just do it for you. And at the end of the day, your payback will come naturally. People will tell you. Danielle, you look amazing, right? And I can look in your face that you have this very nice smile. You're shining, Danielle, but you've always taken the time to maintain a good well-being, a good balance. So you are an example as well of let's get out, let's move. You've gone out of your comfort zone on numerous times. So take a model, right? Take a role model and just follow it.
Yeah, absolutely. They say charity begins at home, or the mask that comes down in the airplane. You put it on yourself first before putting it on anybody else. That's a beautiful way to end. Robert, I've loved our conversation. I hope you have as well. It's a pleasure to see you again. I also want to add to people who would like to know a little bit more about how you can change and how you can become resilient in the face of today's challenges. Or even if you'd like support in navigating your career change, or you'd like to figure out what your purpose is in life, this is exactly what I do. So please reach out for a free conversation with me. You can reach me through my website at www.reinventing-u, that's the letter u.com, or email me at danielle@daniellesilverman.com. That's a wrap up for today's edition of Reinventing You. I look forward to speaking with you again very soon. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to Reinventing You with me, your host, Danielle Silverman. Tune in on the second and fourth Monday each month at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific on transformationtalkradio.com. Join me and feel inspired and optimistic about your future. We only get one life, so embrace change and thrive with me. Find work that aligns best with your soul and what you enjoy. For more information, go to reinventingyou.com.